Hey, what's up, Algebra 1 students? Mr. Ford here with another homework tutorial. This time we're talking about 3.1.2, problems 19 through 24 in Chapter 3. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. 319 is going to ask us which of the expressions below are equal to 16x to the 8th power. Whoops, I kind of jumped pages there for a minute. So make sure to find all the correct answers. So it's not that we have to evaluate these, it's just that we're asking which ones are actually equal to 16x to the 8th. Well, I can tell you that A is going to be a no because of this 16 squared. It's going to happen. That will lead you to a number that will not be 16 in the front of that thing. This one's going to be, I think, what is 16 squared? 16 to the second power is equal to 256. This is 256x to the 8th. That's a no. B is going to be equal to, well, there's 8 times 2. That's 16. And you have x to the second power to the 6th power. They combine together to make x to the 8th, so that's a yes. C is, I think, what A was trying to do, but correct, because you have 2 to the 4th power times x to the 8th power, which is 16. X to the 8th. 2 to the 4th power is 16. So that's a yes, question C. Question D, same exact thing as the previous question. Here you have 4 squared times x to the 4th squared. Might be a good way to think about that. 4 squared is 16. That's x to the 8th, so that's a yes. E is almost there. You have the 2 to the 4th power. That will be 16, but x to the 4th will be x to the 16th power, and that's unfortunately going to be a no. And then question F. This is probably the most difficult one. Raising to the negative first power. What that does, it takes the fraction 1 over 16 and flips it upside down to make it 16 over 1. And then it also takes, if you multiply, if you do negative 8 times negative 1, it makes it x to the 8th power. So that is also a yes in this case. So if I zoom back out, looks like we have B, C, D, and F. Make sure you got some sort of understanding as to why that is, though. 320 is a common question you'll see on quizzes and stuff going forward. Rewrite each expression below without negative or zero exponents. So this would be 1 over 4, like that, the first one. 7 to the 0 power is equal to 1. C would be 1 over 5 squared, and D would be 1 over x squared. You just take those negative exponents and put them on the bottom of a fraction. You could, I suppose, evaluate things like 5 squared is 25, but who cares at this stage? 321, simplify and solve each equation below for x and record your work. So yeah, let's just get into it. And we're just solving equations for x. Think about algebra tiles from back in the day. We're going to add 7 to both sides for starters, and we have 3x equals 9 here. Then we'll divide the 3 on both sides and get x equals 3. Over here in question B, the first thing I would do is combine together the like terms that are there. So on the left side, you'll have 1 plus x, because 2x minus x is just 1x. And on the right side, you have x plus x. That's actually going to be 2x minus 5 right there. And then we'll subtract x from both sides. We'll get 1 equals x minus 5, and then you can add that 5 to both sides to get 6 equals x. Question C, again, we want to think about algebra tiles and flipping things over. Let's take these negative 2x's and let's add them to both sides. Let's flip them up and move them over there. That will leave 3 on the left, 4x on the right, and the minus 5 on the right also. Here we'll start by adding 5 to both sides. There. 3 plus 5 is going to be 8. 8 equals 4 times x, and then we'll divide the 4 on both sides and get x equals 2 for the answer. And then on question D, there's a lot of stuff happening here, but let's just kind of think about it carefully and slowly. Probably the most difficult thing is this minus x plus 1. What you have to remember is that you're going to subtract the x and also subtract the 1. So we're going to have 3 plus 2x minus x minus 1, which equals 3x minus 6. And here, again, before you start moving things from side to side and flipping algebra tiles, you want to make sure you combine your like terms together first. So combine that stuff. 2x minus x gives you just x, and 3 minus 1 gives you 2. So x plus 2 equals 3x minus 6. And now you can start moving things from side to side. Start by flipping or getting rid of an x on both sides, and you'll have 2 equals 2x minus 6. Now take these negative 6 tiles and flip them over here, and you'll make 8 equals 2 times x, and then you can divide by 2 on both sides and get x equals 4. And that would be the answer to that question. So take your time with these. Remember all those things we've done. It's been a while, but remember, that's a simple process if you just take your time with it. The next question is going to ask us to, on the graphed line, do the following: determine the slope and find the equation. So as far as the slope goes, that's as easy as just kind of drawing a slope triangle on here. I guess maybe red is a better color. Maybe orange would show up better. There you go. All you got to remember here is that it looks like each box on the grid is actually worth 2, because I noticed that that is 6 right there. So this is 6 along here, and this would be negative 2. So the slope, the change in y over the change in x, would be negative 2 over 6. M equals negative 2 over 6, which is negative 1/3, and that would be the answer to that question. As far as the equation of the line goes, well, the y-intercept appears to be negative 2 also, just looking right there at the graph. So b is equal to negative 2. So it's just a matter of putting it all together. Y is going to equal negative 1/3 x minus 2, I think is the best way to write the equation of that line. 322, write and solve an equation to represent the given situation. Be sure to define your variable. Samantha currently has $1,500 in the bank and is spending $35 per week. So right away, I'm kind of thinking about 1,500 minus 35, W, maybe like that, where W is the number of weeks that have gone by. The question is, how many weeks will it take until her account is only worth $915? So we want to know when this is going to equal $915, like that. I suppose you could grab a calculator and start taking 1,500 and subtract 35, subtract 35, subtract 35, subtract 35 until you get to 915. That's one way to solve this, but I think it's easier if you just solve it with a straight-up algebra problem. Subtract 1,500 from both sides. You'll get negative 35W equals whatever 915 minus 1,000 is, or minus 1,500, rather. We make calculator cam a little bigger so you can see the calculations that I'm doing there. Negative 585. And then if I'm going to solve this, I would divide both sides by the negative 35 that's there and get the final answer. Negative 585 divided by negative 35 would be that number, which makes me feel like I didn't do it right. Hang on a minute. I'm going to make sure I got this. 1,500 minus. No, that's correct. 915 minus 1,500 is that number divided by negative 35. Yeah, I guess 17 weeks. I mean, it's 16.714 or so. So the interpretation here is 16 or 17 weeks. Somewhere in between that is where it crosses over. I suppose I should round up. 17 weeks is probably the correct answer because that's when it will actually cross over. But okay. 324, determine the equation of the line containing the points given in the table below. Again, when we're determining the equation of the line, all we really need to figure out is the m and the b. So m is going to be the slope, and we can find the slope really easily on this. I would choose, you can choose any pair of points, but I would choose these two because they're only one apart from each other on x. I noticed that right away. So x is increasing by 1, and y is increasing by 3. Or if you wanted to use the slope formula, you could do 8 minus 5 over 3 minus 2. Just remember the change in y goes on the top of this equation, delta y over delta x. So it would be 3 over 1 for the slope, or just 3. And now you know that, you kind of have to work backwards and figure out what is y when x is 0. That's going to be the b. The y-intercept is going to be, what's x when y is 0? It's really easy to think about moving from this negative 1 point, because if we go up one step to 0, all we got to do is add 3 to negative 4, and we'll get negative 1. So our y-intercept is going to be negative 1. You could also use the y minus mx formula that we practiced before, but that's a thing too. So this would be y equals 3x minus 1, and I think that would do it. You could easily check that by plugging in any one of the other numbers in the table and getting the correct y. So that's the end of this one. Hope you had a great time watching it. Don't forget, you are awesome. We're going to have a little quiz, a little tiny quiz over this tomorrow before going into the next section of our Algebra 1 adventure. So I will see you then. Have a great day.